So first of all, this wasn't your first excursion on the spine race. I understand it's like your fourth time round. Can you tell me a bit about what draws you to the spine race?
What draws me to the spine race? I guess it's an accumulation of several years of building up different races and successes and experiences of doing hard things and getting the reward that you get when you complete hard challenges. And I guess spine eventually became the top of the pile. I remember listening to Sabrina Vergy on a podcast and going, actually, yeah, maybe I'll give the spine a go next year. Because I'd put it off for at least 10 years thinking, why would anyone want to do that? And so 4 years ago, I stood on the start line for the first time, ready to race the spine race. And I guess then failure after failure just keeps me intrigued, keeps me drawing me back. I have this mindset, or kind of a growth mindset, of trying to find a way to learn and improve. So I was always going to keep coming back until I finally did finish the race. Huge confidence from last year in the sense that 95% of what I did went really, really, really well. And I kind of knew that if I could recreate that, plus solve the one last couple pieces of the jigsaw, that there's no reason that I couldn't have a similar race this year.
Yeah.
And so it turned out that was the case.
Yeah. So you had to battle pretty extreme temperatures, especially compared to last year. Did you have to kind of prepare mentally and physically for that? Or did it kind of come a little bit out the blue?
Yeah, I definitely had to make a mental adjustment before the race. You know, there's always a hope that you would get last year's conditions and, you know, you could be challenging the fast times at the top end. But then, you know, seeing how much snow there was, it was just like, and then seeing the split of the Challenger South go off, it just meant, like, I need to recalibrate that this is not a race for a time anymore, but just enjoy the race and adjust expectations of when you would get to places. So don't put like pressure on myself to be at Hawes at the same time as I was last year.
Yeah.
And kind of expect would be a lot slower. So that was definitely a crucial part of coping with the change in conditions.
Yeah. And do you think that added like a whole new kind of level? I was looking at the photos and you all looked like you were up in Lapland or something. It was pretty spectacular.
Yeah, I mean, the first few hours across Kinderscow were absolutely awe-inspiring with the sunrise over the inversion and the white snow everywhere. And that was just a spectacular moment. It then actually for us was actually still quite quick moving to Hudson Bridge, and although probably a little bit more work, we were very similar to the times the year before. But I think it wasn't until after Hudson that actually the snow was deeper. It was more of a wading job.
Yeah.
It was harder work. There was no easy miles, and the toll of that definitely started to mount up in that second leg.
Yeah.
But by the time at Hawes, I was definitely feeling a lot more work compared to last year, even though I was 2 hours slower.
Yeah. You were at the front for quite a lot of the race. What was it like being out there? It was you, John Kelly, there was a group of you. Do you think that kind of helped in the early stages?
Yeah, I knew that there probably would be a group at the start. I was a little surprised that it shrunk down to just three of us quite early on after the tour side.
Yeah.
But there again, John Kelly was pushing the pace on, so I'm not that surprised that it did break down early. But it definitely helps when there's a few of you working together, sharing some of the miles and passing some of the time, just in that shared company.
Yeah.
So that was definitely really nice for the first 70 to 80 miles before I ended up all on my own for pretty much the rest of the race.
Yeah.
Apart from a short section after Langtonbeck. But leading the race, it felt then that I could make my own strategy.
Yeah.
I was never then held to someone else's race. If I was at the front, I could always play the cards that I wanted to play.
Yeah.
So this time, the difference I wanted to try was to try and sleep at Hawes. I've always rushed through there before, and well, the last 2 times,
yeah,
I've never made it to checkpoint 3.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do something different.
Yeah.
So arriving there ahead of everyone else just gave me that confidence to, no, I've earned this time. Let's use that for rest and taking half an hour snooze.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not sure whether it helped or not, but it gave me extra confidence that, okay, I'm a little bit more rested. I've relaxed my mind for a bit. Right, I'm ready for the next push. And I think it really helped. And then playing the game, getting to the checkpoint, and I was in quite a bit of a bad way with my legs.
Right.
That it allowed me to have and not worry about rushing out, taking a time. It just allowed me to go, right, what do I need to recover and move on? And I was actually quite surprised, having spent 4 hours there, but that was brilliant, because then I knew I was rested more than anyone else and still in the lead. So it gave me further confidence that in the long game, that I was still going to end up not falling apart in the race.
Was there any point that you felt like, oh, I've got this in the bag? Or did you kind of feel like you were pushing all the way through to the end?
The only time I thought, actually, this is probably in the bag, likely it is in the bag, was Hut 1.
Right.
When I still had an 8-mile lead and I was still moving fairly well. I think the euphoria of actually the realisation that I was going to do it, and I was going to finish, and I was going to win it, was probably somewhere halfway between Hut 1 and Hut 2.
Yeah.
And at that point, it was just a real switch in my mindset, in my well-being, in my motivation. Suddenly, I was determined to race hard to the finish, to give my everything, to enjoy the moment. It was kind of that out-of-body kind of, all the 4 years of hard work suddenly came out in those 3 hours, and I literally did fly. The motivation also of knowing that Jasmine's ghost was somewhere close. I didn't know exactly where it was, but I knew it couldn't be far. Just added a little bit of, well, maybe I can chase this. And it made the last 3 hours really, really fun. Yeah. And then getting the knowledge of, actually, she's just left Hut 2 as I've arrived, kind of with all the incentive I need to continue doing that to the end. And yeah, that was just amazing.
What was your favourite moment from the event? And, you know, comparatively, what was probably your lowest moment? I
seem to remember really kind of enjoying Fountain Fell to Hawes. It was kind of that moment where I ended up breaking away on my own and feeling really, really positive and good. So that was kind of, and it was in tough snowy conditions. Yeah. But the effort I'd put into the early parts of the race to keep my well-being good, really coming out at this point. The other highlight for me would be that last few hours of the race. That just topped it off, being able to finish and run that strongly, that I'd managed the race really, really well, and to set that time with more sleep than normal. That was a real high point. Lows, Yeah, I was in a dark place at Langton Beck. I was close to quitting. I didn't know how I was going to make it. And just a few crucial reaching out for a little bit of strategy to overcome it, and then an attitude to give myself space to try got me out of that.
Yeah. The
other dark place was Hadrian's Wall. It was where the sleep deprivation hit me most, and I was finding the train really hard on the feet, and in the end I was having to take 3 or 4 5-minute trail naps to put my head on on my bag and just close the eyes for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
To get enough alertness to be able to keep moving again. But that kind of worked to get me through that low point. And then I started shouting at myself and then waking myself up and using that as a tool to push me on. And then when I get to Hornishead Farms and then the lights, it's like an oasis in a load of darkness. You suddenly reach Hornishead Farm and I got to meet Helen, who'd waited up for me, and just then seeing that I'd opened up a 4-mile gap, all the incentive I needed from that point on to keep doing what I was doing.
Amazing. So how's your recovery been following the race?
Oh, very, very tough. I mean, immediately after, the feet swelled up to balloons and the aches and pains in the ligaments and the joints, and then not sleeping well because you have to get up every minute for going to the toilet. But after the first few days of acute recovery and pain, it slowly got better. And I was grateful 2 nights ago to get a really good night's sleep and stop hurting as much. But I've still got throbbing feet and still a little achy, and still a little bit not caught up on sleep. But it's now definitely turned the corner, and I'm feeling motivated again to look forward to new things.
Amazing. So do you have anything lined up for the rest of the year?
Yeah, I guess I've got a little hard short race for me. I'm called UTS 100 kilometres, the Ultra-Trail Snowdonia.
Yeah.
For me, it's a bit of a fun, hard warm-up race against some of the younger, up-and-coming ultra runners now. So that would be a fun, hard race. And then going to do Bighorn 100 in the States in June. I've never done an American race, so I just wanted to go run a 100-miler out there and have a little bit of a holiday. And probably my big goal will be Tour de Jean in September if I can get into that race.